Our speaker today, Eric, you know him well, but I have a few tidbits to tell you that I haven't told you before about Eric, and that he has a deep passion for healing of our minds, our bodies, our emotions, and spirit, our relationships, our work, and our world. Presently, a change and communications coach, Eric has experience in many, many diverse fields, from the environment to peace and healthy communities to deep relaxation and spirituality at work and in elder care. Eric is also a longtime practitioner of therapeutic touch. Who knew? And he's also a student of A Course in Miracles, and we all knew that one. Our musician today, Nathan, as you've heard, is a very talented recording artist, singer, songwriter, and he's based in Vancouver. And he believes that his calling in this life is to encourage people to live big lives, one small step at a time, through his heart-centered music making, his engaging talks, and his warm, deep listening. Nathan honors his calling by performing and speaking internationally at conferences, concerts, retreats, and churches, presenting his music, stories, and humor with his voice and his cuddly little Chapman stick. He now offers morning musings, that's with music and meditation, every Wednesday morning at 9 Pacific time via Facebook Live. So without any further delays, let's open our hearts and listen to Nathan sing his own composition, Faith of God. Over to you, Nathan.
Thanks very much, Pixie. It's time to stop, redress, forgive myself for thinking that I am small and less than who and what I am. Divine creation with a simple job. Express my thoughts and feelings with the faith of God. At first I was happy and carefree, then limited thinking ensued. Taught to believe that I was not enough. That story became my truth. But it's time to stop, redress, forgive myself for thinking that I am small and less than who and what I am. Divine creation with a simple job. Express my thoughts and feelings with the faith of God. Now let me look at my language, mindful of all that I say. Words shape the way I see things in the world. Each one's a potent prayer. So it's time to stop, redress, forgive myself for thinking that I am small and less than who and what I am. Divine creation with a simple job. express my thoughts and feelings with the faith of God. It's time to live completely as unified and whole, and in that full engagement reclaim my truest role. It's time to stop, redress, forgive myself for thinking that I am small and less than who and what I am. Divine creation with a simple job. Express my thoughts and feelings with the faith of God. The faith of God.
Beautiful, Nathan. Whoa. Thank you so much for that. I often feel listening to Nathan's music that we could just stop the service right there because we just heard the full meal deal, the full message. Beautifully written, Nathan. And so wholly in alignment with what today is about. So I invite everybody who's present in front of a computer, on a telephone, or however you're connecting with this, to begin to sit back in your chair, because I'm about to introduce Nathan with his song written by him called Whole, which will lead us into meditation.
Wake me up, clear my sight, so I might be whole. Still my mind, heal my heart, every part made whole. Finding me, we find us, one in trust, we're whole.
As you continue to hear the lovely strains of Nathan's music, I invite you to take a very gentle breath. Let it be your first breath, your first awareness of tuning in to you. Now with each breath you take, begin to relax more into your chair or whatever you're sitting on. Feel yourself beginning to unwind. as though you were a spiritual pipeline of energy, letting in the light from above, the relaxation through your mind and your head, your face, your jaw. Feel that relaxation happening in your throat chakra, your shoulders, your arms. Feel your hands begin to unwind. Feel that energy of expansion, relaxation in your chest and your back. Flowing that energy down through your midsection, through your seat into the chair, through your hips, your upper legs, your knees, your calves, shins down, through your ankles and feet into the floor. Just feel yourself grounding, relaxing, beginning to tune in to the awareness of that still small presence inside that we call God. Source, the big love. As you continue to move inside, listening to your heart, your breath, stirring of tingling perhaps in some part of your body. I want you to imagine that behind all these observations is the true you, the real self that you are. That you are literally a rippling of light and love in the universe. A holy presence that if you really knew who you are, it might even bring you to tears. Gratitude and appreciation, of wonder and of joy. As you begin to let that thought in, let's move into a few moments of silence. Now, as you begin to hear the sound of my voice again, and Nathan's music, I invite you to begin to make the journey back to present awareness. Room around you. Perhaps you begin to hear sounds or feel the flickering of your eyes. Be aware again of your breath, coming back to this level of awareness of your body, seeing the computer screen if you have one, or telephone close to you. Begin to notice things in your room, wherever you are. Really begins to connect you back to what is around you. And as you do so, be aware, both the external and the internal, how you want to feel, how you want to be, and how you want to come to know yourself in this world. Your strength, your love, your energy to give and to serve, and to begin to ripple that energy out to the people on this service, the people in your life, and the people in the world, wherever that love, that healing, and that holiness might best be serving our world right now to bring it to peace. With that, take one more breath, connect yourself with your chair, perhaps move your body, stretch your arms as we begin to move in through the meditation and into the service. The rest of the service, at least, the talk. Thank you, Nathan. Beautiful. When I do this might remind you of something. I've once heard that doing this was the sound of a Sufi clap, that it doesn't have the punctuation of a regular clap, but it's the celebration of life. And that's what I send out to my brother Nathan, unto all of you.
We lost your sound, Eric.
Thank you, Angelica. We always need feedback in the world. This talk is called Healthy, Happy, Holy, and Whole. What's the connection? Look at those 4 words if you can see them or think of them. Healthy, happy, holy, and whole. I'm going to take you perhaps in a different direction than you might be expecting about today's theme, getting healthy, but I hope it'll resonate as we go through it. So when you think of this month's theme, you've seen the slide, if you have the ability to see the slides here, if not, get healthy. When you think of that theme, I want you to ask yourself a question. How do I feel inside when I hear that? Do you feel something like this big yes? That's what I want. That it just kind of ripples and resonates through your being and your body? Or do you get this? A little sound of ugh inside. Ugh. That may sound a little strange, and it's not to dishonor the theme that Unity has set for the month, but you'll understand more why I ask that as we explore the next few slides. Why do you get those feelings inside, and particularly any feelings of ugh or resistance? Does health attract you in thought? Do you feel like, yes, that's what I want to move towards? that you're continually taking steps towards being healthier in your life? Or does the thought of getting healthy engage another part of your mind and your thinking? A more fearful, limited, strained thought that goes, I don't really want to think about that. Why is that? Well, I think it's because some part of our mind begins to ask negative questions about us. How am I unhealthy? What have I not done that I was supposed to do? Shouldn't I have eaten better or exercised more or done something? Or maybe the part of our mind that goes, I don't really want to think about health because I actually have some concerns underneath and I'd rather just not think. I'd rather put those aside. Well, whatever part of health and whatever aspect of mind is speaking to you, invite it in. Make it a more open space inside that you might be able to feel both, or whatever part of health is speaking to you. So why is this important? Well, I believe that it's our thoughts and feelings that guide our choices and our actions in the world. And if our thoughts are open, it will invite in one kind of experience. If our thoughts are actually closed or fearful, it will invite in another kind of experience. For example, one of the things about health throughout the world and through many of us is we make it what I call a should. And what I mean by that is kind of like an imposing finger from someone or some place in our lives that says, you see, this is the way you should be. And if you're not, you're bad or you're wrong in some way. Or maybe we use these words, be more disciplined. Has anybody ever said that to themselves? At least I have. So at least one of us in the room, I don't think I'm alone. You know, we use phrases like this or an internal pointing a finger to motivate ourselves, but motivate ourselves by fear, by guilt, by pressure or force to be a different way. And I think that's one of the reasons why ideas like getting healthy can trigger feelings of ugh. Do I really have to? Because it comes from an externally or negatively imposed way. I'd like to use these few minutes here to turn that idea around. I'd like to see if we can make getting healthy something we do out of love. Remember last month's theme, love above all else? See if we can begin to approach health through love, through actual desire for it, through attraction, that in a way that opens up our mind and bodies, our emotions and thoughts into something we invite in as opposed to resisting. So how do we do that? Well, I'd like to start by looking at the meaning of that word discipline. All right. Well, let's turn to a pretty reputable source, the Oxford Dictionary, and look what it says about the word discipline. It's the practice of training people or ourselves to obey rules or behavior using punishment to correct disobedience. Can any of you relate to that kind of discipline? And if so, and if it stirs you, take a breath. Yes, we've all had that kind of discipline in our lives, either from externally or from our internal voice as well. Punishment to correct disobedience or to obey rules. So how do we shift that? Well, let's consider it this way, through something called etymology. Etymology is about the origins of words that we use and how they've evolved through time and through history. Now, this is not to be confused with the word entomology, and I can just see Pixie bubbling up when I say that word, because entomology is about bugs. No, that's not what we're talking about today. It's etymology, the origins, meanings of words. So with the etymology of discipline, what does it really mean? Well, it actually comes from the Latin word discipulus. hopefully I've pronounced that close to correctly. Discipulus meant in Latin pupil or student. And it's actually the root word or source of the word disciple. So let's go in that direction for a moment. Imagine children, little children, coming to Jesus to hear him, to feel his vibration. Or imagine the disciples themselves wanting to be with him. Can you get the kind of energy of attraction that would be behind being a disciple? They weren't there out of punishment or should or Jesus forcing them to be, but out of attraction. What if we approached the idea of health with the same kind of love and desire? What does this really mean? Our being says, how do I get this? Spirit, help me. I really want that. Can you see and feel the quality of desire, of reverence, of beauty, of wonder, of something that we could have, just as the disciples or the children might have felt about being around Jesus? Take a breath and see if anything resonates there. So let's take the word health again through the etymology, what I go to source now called the online etymology dictionary. Health comes from something called the Proto-Indo-European language or culture of around 4,000 to 5,000 years before Jesus. And in that culture, the word chylo, or perhaps pronounced chylo, I'm not sure, meant whole and uninjured. Does that begin to break open the bubble of the way we hold health in this world? Well, that culture and its languages spread throughout the European and the Asian continents. And the Old Norse language used the term from that called helge, meaning holy or sacred. Same root word, meaning, but interpreted as holy or sacred. Take a breath and imagine that that might be what we're really pointing to with the word health. Well, the Old English adopted the same root, but turned it into a word that they called help, perhaps the root of our word help itself. But it means being whole or sound or well. The Old English also adopted that same root, but in the word elan, to heal was the meaning of that word. And that morphed into the Middle English word health, but health in a much larger content. It wasn't just about our physical form and looking beautiful or perfect, but about our whole prosperity, our happiness, even our safety. Imagine if we held health in that larger context. Would you want it more? With that in mind, I'd like to ask you a question. Where are you healthy? Think about your body, your mind, emotions, or spirit. Where are you feeling healthy? How do you feel healthy in regard to your happiness? Think about, how happy am I? And where do I feel happiness in my life? Where are you healthy in terms of money or things or possessions or just your general feeling of prosperity in the world? You may not have a lot of money, but feel very prosperous. And that is one form of healthiness or health. You feel safe and secure. And would you even open up to the idea that you feel holy or sacred in some way? Take a breath, let in where you feel healthy. Now let me turn to another question. Where would you like to be healthier in your life? And I'll invite the same areas in for consideration. Would you like to feel and be healthier in some part of body, mind, emotions, or spirit? Would you like to be healthier in terms of your happiness in your life and in the world? Would you like to be healthier in terms of your specific or general prosperity, perhaps regarding money or other aspects of prosperity in your life? There's nothing wrong with admitting that we'd like to be healthier, because it's a North Star. It's pointing us to what we know is possible in our lives. The same with feeling safe and secure. Would you like to be healthier, happier in that area? And what about feeling holy or even sacred? Would you like to feel more of that? Take another breath. Clear your thoughts. Open your mind to how that might come into being. For my next question is, in a loving, supportive, and kind way for yourself, what might you do to have that increase in health in whatever area came to you as important? Does anything come to mind as you sit thinking to yourself right now? If so, let a little bell go off that you want to remember it later, or maybe write it down if you want to. Does anything come to mind right now? Be watchful and mindful of that. And notice what comes to you as I continue to speak and as we finish out the service, and in fact, the next week and month ahead, because all of March is about getting healthy in the Unity calendar. So to help with that, I'd like to use a picture to represent health. And I've chosen a picture of a sandy beach on the edge of a beautiful ocean strip. But in the picture, if you can see it on your computer, or if you can't, imagine it in your mind's eye, it's as if seen through a glass darkly, which is a biblical quote from Corinthians. It's when our mind or our being can't fully see. It's though we're looking through a dark glass, and it's kind of murky, so we don't really get the experience of it. And what I'd like to do is share 4 stories that might begin to give you a clearer picture, both of that landscape and of health itself. Okay? Take a breath. Here we go. The first story gives us a little bit of a glimmer of that picture, and this one is about Myrtle Fillmore. Now, you've heard Myrtle's story in bits and pieces, I'm sure, over time, if you've attended Unity in any way. But I wanted to go a little deeper into, I'd like to take you back about 160 years to when Myrtle was a teenager. And she had tuberculosis. She said, I was very sick through my child and young adult years. I had all the ills of mind and body that I could bear. Medicine and doctors ceased to give me release, and I was in despair. Can any of you relate in any way, or just empathize with this woman in such deep despair and medical, physical challenge? Well, Myrtle went to a New Thought lecture where she heard a life-changing affirmation. You probably have heard this one before. The affirmation that she heard was, I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. Well, something in Myrtle's mind clicked. She knew this to be true, and was eventually, through the practices that led her to, she was eventually healed of her TB and her other ailments. She said, on reflection years later about what happened, it was a change of mind from the old carnal mind, which we might now call worldly mind, the old carnal mind that believes in sickness, to the Christ mind of life and permanent health. She said, I applied spiritual laws effectively, like unity principles that we've now come to embody. blessing my body, my physical body temple, until it manifested the innate health of spirit. Through her process of this, she came to recognize and realize that prayer works. She said, prayer is an exercise to change our thought habits and our living habits. When some of our thought energy is expended in negative beliefs and feelings, we get those old negative results. Myrtle also, through her practice of what worked for herself, she also taught there's more to the healing process than just prayer. Practices like self-care, eating right, exercising regularly, and resting. And also what she called conformity, which we might now call alignment to true ideas. For example, by affirming the truth of who we are. A core practice or principle within unity is affirming the deeper truth of who we are. That's Myrtle's story. What insights from that might you pick up about how you could become or be healthier? I'll move you now to the second story. This story is about me, and if you can't see the picture on the screen, or you can, this is me back in around 1982 from a newspaper clipping, so this picture isn't quite as clear as it might be. Again, keeping with our idea of we can't quite see who we really are. And in my story, last fall, I told you about the fact that I was experiencing extreme pressure inside. It just kept building up, and I couldn't figure out why or heal it or dissipate it fully through the practices I've learned over 40 years. So I needed to start work with a therapist or counselor again. Well, in doing that, the first thing she invited me to do, a woman by the name of Lynn, she asked me to do basically a life review, a review of all the issues, life challenges that I've experienced from birth onward. Well, starting that process opened me up to so much in so many different ways. It changed my dreams, and it opened me up to things that I need to heal, like the experience I had in 1982 of beginning to express my spiritual voice and feeling it shut down and rejected by others. And as a result, I rejected it myself. This healing work has taken me even into past life issues. One of the most important ones was being led back to a place of 25 or 28 generations ago in my family, where the ideas of spirituality and God were used to punish and pressure each other into how to live and believe, as opposed to opening each other and all of us open to love. Well, over the last 4 months, I've experienced such a healing that I'm feeling freer and lighter, and that it's opening me up on a much deeper level than I ever anticipated. I invite you to take a breath with that story, and let's move to our third story. Well, the third story is again about me looking a little bit more the way I do today. This one, very briefly, one of the healings I did with a visualization of that I was led to was to heal more deeply with my two relationships, wives of two different stints in my life. I'd always felt guilty of having left relationship, that I hadn't done enough, or that I hadn't cared enough, or that I hadn't stayed in relationship. And this visualization of light coming in to my mind and extending it to them allowed me to have an experience of feeling cleared and clean and cleansed, and as though I hold my two loved wives in a crystalline kind of way in my consciousness now. That's what's possible when we open up to the more that is. And my final story is about you. Now, I don't know where you are, so I invite you to look in a mirror. How do you hold the idea of health in your life? Are you friends with it, or do you resist it? Are you struggling in some area, or both that and maybe moving towards it? Do you maybe even believe that it's not even possible or fear to look at it? How do you hold and look at yourself in regards to health in all its ways that I've talked about here today? What is getting healthy? Well, what I'd like to do is take those 4 stories and bring together the parts. All those stories, begin to let those ideas that are percolating inside of you begin to create a full picture of what health might look like. And on the screen, that beautiful beach that I was picturing earlier. Having a picture of what health might be or look like helps us to move towards it, because it then invites us to take a small step towards it, whatever step might come to mind, and then take another step, and then another step. Go gently, go at your own pace, do what invites you, what calls you. Take a step away from the shoulds and into, I want this. I want to be in that picture that I can see on the screen, or the picture of health I have in my mind. Take a step away from be more disciplined into an inner desire to follow, just as those disciples did with Jesus. Imagine the true picture of health being something you want to follow. And as you do so, as you take those steps, imagine that picture becoming larger. The experience of that beach, if you see it on the screen, becoming more real to you. So you actually feel like you're stepping into the picture and the beauty of health that is calling you. Where does health come from? Well, we have many ideas and pictures about it. Is it mostly about genetics, something that we've been given and can't really change? Is it all about diet and exercise? Well, yes, in part, but is it more than that? Is it also about how we think of and treat ourselves, others, and the world? Is it about our beliefs about our bodies and our lives, about our limitations, but also our abilities that go well beyond those limitations? Where does health come from in your mind? What if health and happiness and holiness and wholeness are really the actual truth of what we really are? Our true Christ self wanting to shine through, the very essence of our being, as Charles Fillmore said. If it is, then our real work is to reclaim that truth, to uncover those aspects of health and being, to release what blocks us from experiencing them, as Myrtle did, as I've been doing, and to affirm the truth of our being. This time of Lent, there's a Lent booklet put out by Unity called A Time to Let Go, where the founders, it says the founders of Unity learned that affirming a happier life worked better if they first released negative thoughts, doubts, and fears, beliefs and past experiences about who they've come to be, to begin to experience the truth of who we are. And in doing so, we begin to feel the freedom and experience changes in our lives that for me are really what capture that word healing. So with that, I invite you to take a breath and take a moment. Take a moment that in a loving, supportive, kind way, as you start to turn within, in a loving, supportive, kind way, what might you do to be healthier? In your heart of heart, what aspect of health is calling to you now? And what is coming to mind about how you might do that? Maybe a small step that you could take. As you hold that way of thinking about health in your heart, and begin you let up those ideas of the small steps you can take. Imagine yourself taking one of those steps, and then another, and then another, as you begin to step in to that picture of beauty or holiness or health that you long for in your heart of hearts. Healthy, happy, holy, whole. That's what you're meant to have and experience. Thank you for taking time to be with us today and for listening. And let me now turn it over to my dear brother Nathan for his song, A Wholehearted Life.
Thank you, dear brother Eric, for always being spot on. I want to have a wholehearted life, a wholehearted life, where no matter what's done or left undone, I belong and I'm enough. A wholehearted life, a wholehearted life, where I'm worthy of love. This looking for certainty is really exhausting me. Perfect though I tried to be, I've not been. Alone with my guilt and shame, afraid of more pain and blame. I know I'm out to stay in the game that I can't win. Time to make myself a brand new choice. I want to have a wholehearted life, a wholehearted life, where no matter what's done or left undone, I belong and I'm enough. A wholehearted life, a wholehearted life, for I'm worthy of love. So I choose to be set free, take responsibility, stand in vulnerability, and speak my heart. To get love I must give love, to belong I must reach out, to find truth I must be true and play my part. 'Cause owning my story and loving myself too are the bravest things I'll ever do. I want to have a wholehearted life, a wholehearted life, where no matter what's done or left undone, I belong and I'm enough. A wholehearted life, a wholehearted life, where I'm worthy of love. Sing with me. I want to able to love.
Oh, my sound was not on. Thank you so much, Nathan. That was just outstanding. That song, so deeply touching to the heart and bang on, just musically nice to hear too. And Eric, my goodness, that was such a great talk. Bang on. It dealt with health in such a holistic way, hit every possible clue that we can find for real health. So thank you so much. And now